All right, let's just jump into it because I'm just a mess today. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Dungeons and Degrees. My name's Adrian, and we are missing Alex today, but that is a-okay. She said, "Carry on, my wayward son." She didn't say that. She just said, "Don't hate me," and I never. Uh, and today we're with Madness Diamond, um, producer of what's it? God, Dinner and a Game. There we go. See, told you my mind was a mess. And a sex worker. I wanted to talk about how um, they're perceived within the space, as well as what it takes to be a producer. Um, I just don't have that perspective, and I want to know. Um, is the community as welcoming? I mean, people can say they are, but do they actually respond that way? Anyways, here we are. Hi, welcome, Madness.
Hiya.
Diamond or Madness?
I honestly, I've been going by Madness and Diamond for over 10 years. Just as a quick introduction, hiya, I'm Madness Diamond, but since we're friends now, you can call me Diamond. I also go by Diamond Lynn, as most of the things that you might see my name pop up as. But I'm Madness Diamond on all social medias. I am a TTRPG actual play performer, producer. I'm the administrative coordinator over on Dinner and a Game. I'm the community manager for the cast side of things on Roll Tree Quests. I'm also the lead producer for House of Dreams Rose Court project, which is going to be a charity project benefiting PCRF that is still in pre-production stages. And I'm a sex worker. I work with a nonprofit called Decrim 305, which is based in Miami-Dade County, Florida. I'm their long distance person because I am based in St. Louis, Missouri. Um, uh, I kind of have an all around thing. I use they, she pronouns. They because it fits, she because I won't correct my mother more than once. It's the running joke, but also because it still very much vibes with me at this
Mhm.
point. I like being sapphic, and the she, her sapphic is a very spicy sapphic, like the they, she sapphic.
Amazing.
But yeah, I exist in the space as a TTRPG enthusiast. I've been in the space for oh gosh, how long? I've been into TTRPGs actively since probably 2018, 2019. With people inviting me to play D&D as a home game. My first D&D game, I played a ranger who had a lion companion because lions are my favorite animal for a birthday one shot, and I got my first nat 20 by stealing a necklace off of an NPC, or I can't remember if it was an NPC or another player character.
Mhm.
But I was very excited, and I had that big moment that you get when you first roll your first natural 20. So I
Right.
didn't know what it meant. So I'm like, well, the dice only goes to 20. But yeah, so I've been in this space at least on the fringes or actively for 5 years as a hobby, and then I started getting deeper into the space like a lot of people did whenever quarantine hit in 2020. I was in my first like kind of like recorded streamed thing. We didn't use any cameras, it was a podcast. And it was a Final Fantasy Pathfinder mod for Pathfinder 1. So it was very crunchy.
Oh, Miss Old
So
Pope
crunchy.
Pathfinder, the crunch.
Oh, I know, the crunch. But yeah, I was very much like working off of my phone. I didn't have like a proper setup for anything. The audio for that game like is iffy because we all were just people who wanted to play together, but I think those are kind of the best ones sometimes.
Yeah.
Um and from that experience being my first one of being in a stream, I reflect on that a lot with the producing that I do. I reflect on that a lot because like that game did end because of scheduling issues. And so I take that into account. Like I am someone who uses one of my favorite accessibility things that I use in not only for Dinner and a Game, but also for World Tree Quests. Because I also built the majority of the World Tree Quest Discord server that our cast uses for their shows. I have a whole scheduling channel in both of those. And I use the Apollo bot for it because the Apollo bot, I have to program it by hand,
Oh.
to make it reoccur, but the time zone is set to somebody's system because we're all in different time zones. I've worked with people in India, I've worked with people in Australia, I've worked with people in like all across the Midwest, all across the Midwest and like the United States. I've worked with people in Canada, and then the big one is for World Tree Quest. Our DM of Doom, son of Asgard, who's Bran, who built the entire world. Um, Bran and another player of ours are based in Scotland.
uh,
So they're, I believe, 6 hours ahead of us. We usually
right.
go at like 5 p.m., 6 p.m. Central, which means it's like it's really late at night for them. And then we have another player who's in a different time zone, and like we're all across the board. So I feel like having that accessibility tool is something that all producers should find a way to do. Apollo also has a notification feature because I, as someone who is ADHD, have really bad time blindness. Uh, and I set a million alarms. I live and die by my Google Calendar
Mm.
because it will notify me. It's like, hey, you have something to do in 30 minutes. Because sometimes like I just forget until I realize, oh wait, what day is it?
Yeah.
Uh,
No, I understand that.
yeah. So like stuff like that, I feel is a big thing for producers as well. It's also making your content accessible to not only your players, because I've worked with Zoom, I've worked out of Discord, I've worked on Google Meets, I've worked on Video Ninja, I've worked on Riverside, I've worked now on like the platform you guys use for Dungeons and
Hmm.
Degrees. And so like I'm someone who looks at like, can my system handle this? I have an older setup. I'm
Gotcha.
not a gamer girly yet. One day maybe. But we have a bunch of people who are working off of different hardware, and it's
Right.
making your ability to run your project accessible and saying it's like realistically what can we do.
Hmm.
One of the things too is like with some people being like, oh, I have a like 10 terabyte hard drive that all of my stuff lives on. It's like that's wonderful, but the other person on this project doesn't have access to that kind of technology. You can't put them to the same standard you're at. I'm someone who thinks you need to meet society and you need to meet like your community at the most accessible run for someone who maybe doesn't have the highest grade tech.
Right.
Um, we also like on Dinner and a Game, I'm starting to bring in people who are newer into this space.
Hmm.
People who like I have a usually with all my outros on the streams I'm on, I always say, if you have a project that you need a little sparkle or shine to, let like come to my DMs and let me know. If you want to work on something together, let me know. I will make time for you. But it's also if you're a player or a GM looking for a table, or if you're someone who's looking into getting into the TTRPG streaming side of things for the community aspect,
Right.
um, like let me know. I will do my best to try to help you. I'm not a miracle worker. I can't work like actual magic, but I can try.
Hmm.
um, I've made a lot of really good connections in this space because I've been in it. I would consider heavy quotation marks, italicized sparkle emojis in case for about like 2 years professionally. At least like me taking this seriously as a profession.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay.
Um, like so I do try, and I try to make sure that all the tables are safe. The safety tools that I use specifically for dinner and a games projects are always of course the Monty Cook consent sheet.
Hmm.
All hail the
All hell.
one who was just like consent sheets in your games, and everybody's like, oh. But my
Yeah.
other favorite is the Gehenna Gaming consent and horror consent sheet because it is a twofold consent sheet. It has a lot of the same content as the Monty Cook one,
Hmm.
but the difference between it and the reason why I like it specifically is because you can designate if you're fine with something happening in the world to a player, and you're fine with something happening in the world just existing in the world.
Right.
Because,
Right.
for example, like if you're somebody who's like, oh, I don't like tornadoes, like the Twister movie was not my vibe.
Hmm.
A lot of Midwesterners have that opinion.
Right.
I like to watch them on my porch. But like if player A says it's like I want to put tornadoes as a yellow on my consent sheet, and the GM's looking at it like, okay, like let's talk about this.
Hmm.
In what context or tornado is a yellow is like a normal conversation people have as a session zero. The Gehenna Gaming one has the ability to where you can say it's like, oh, maybe I think like tornadoes directed at us as players is like actually a red for me, but tornadoes existing in the world
Right.
itself like are maybe like a yellow. It's like I'm fine with like inclement conditions, but maybe I don't want to be Dorothy taken away to Oz.
Right. I mean, as people who have, like, I personally never, that's not right. I've experienced a tornado very early in my youth that I have totally
Mhm.
forgotten until I just thought about it right now. Like, there's no way I'm going to, like, put that on myself if I've had such a traumatic experience. And then, but, like, I'm okay with them existing and just, like, to me, reliving whatever that might have been um,
Yeah,
for whoever it is. It's not the vibe. We're here to have fun. So that's totally
exactly.
understandable.
Yeah, but that's why I like the Gehenna Gaming's like consent and horror. It is
Hmm.
very much geared towards horror games.
Yeah.
Gehenna Gaming is an indie company who specializes in horror games. They're one of my favorites because they're also very nice people. But
Mm.
like that consent sheet very much solidifies like, oh, this is the new standard I have for what I would like to be able to supply information wise,
Mhm.
because then it also helps the GM, the storyteller, the DM, the game facilitator in their session building, because they can then see what's okay to put in the world itself in the background for like scenic drama or like things that like rumors circulating about it, because you now have a little bit more of a guideline with those lines and veils being solidified. So I make it like it's an a must have on dinner and a game, to like that has to be a consent sheet that players like do. We do a lot of like horror leaning stuff right now because we
Mhm.
do have our like basically in-house GM who is Renowned Gaming. He uses they them pronouns. Ren is a wonderful soul and an even better game facilitator. Ren leans a lot into horror storytelling. So whenever I gave that consent sheet over to Ren, I'm like, hey, I need you to use this for your players for these one shots you're running. Like Ren looked at it and was just like, bet I can do so much with this. And they are able to then tell richer games based on like the consent sheet. So yeah,
Right.
that's a tool I always use. I always try to basically do something what I call touching base sessions, or I at least like put out touching base sessions
Mhm.
for longer term campaigns. Um, we have two long running games currently under in a game. I'm part of one of them, which is Emerald Sanctums, our World of Darkness multisplat. And then the other game, that one's on Tuesdays, and then Wednesdays is Kingdoms of Mist. And Kingdoms of Mist and Emerald Sanctums have been running for over 3 years. Yeah, they're long term games.
Ish.
Uh, And so, like, there was a conversation that I was having with other players because, like, while I am like a producer, like administrative coordinator on Dinner Game, I'm still a player at the end of the day.
Right.
I'm still playing a character that I want to tell a story with. And so, basically, these touching base sessions are I make a Google form and I have it filled out to where it's like, who are you? What game are you on? And it just goes through and says, it's like, what's something that you're enjoying about this game? What's something in the next 3 to 5 sessions you would like to touch on for your character?
Yeah.
Do you have any like basically concerns you'd like to bring up about either the story itself, the content, or what's going on with your character? And the thing with Emerald Sanctums and Kingdoms of Mist is we're hopefully wrapping up the storylines we're doing this year before we go on holiday break. And with Kingdoms of Mist, especially because it's been running for so long, that they want to do a season finale, so they're tying up all the loose
We
ends.
tying
Yeah.
everything in a bow is such a nice
Oh,
little tricky thing, but if it's done
yeah.
correctly, everyone's satisfied.
Chef's kiss. But yeah, so this touching base session like is basically it's not really a session, it's something mostly for the storyteller who is
Hmm.
Ray, who is the founder of the feast, the person who founded Dinner in the Game. He's the GM for both of those games. And it was a way for me to give him a resource of like, this is what your players are saying. This is the input they're giving you about these games that they're in. and the stories that you're telling.
Right.
So then he knows, oh, person A says that they want more, like they want to go see an ice cream truck because their character has something with an ice cream truck in their backstory.
Hmm.
And they're hunting down one specific ice cream truck for one specific kind of ice cream. Like it's something like that that might get lost in the shuffle while you're saving the world. But it would mean
Right.
the world to that player to get to touch on this one little story thread. It also keeps track of like, hey, did we maybe forget something in the
Oh
past
yeah, for
couple of
sure.
like episodes?
I've
So yeah,
I've definitely forgot stuff along the way when I do big campaigns.
exactly. And it's like, so the touching base sessions are a tool that I think more
Hmm.
people like, if you have the capability to sit everybody down and basically say, it's like, hey, we're going to take tonight off. We're going to instead go over basically this like thing you guys filled out and have an actual touching base session, which kind of does work as a session zero after the game has already started. It is a check in, but it's a check in where everybody has a like moment to talk with each other and bounce ideas off of each other, and the GM to be present for it and see. It's like, there's a rule on Fathoms Below, which is the World Tree Quest show, that
Hmm.
between like the cast, where it's like, if you want to ship post, you got to ship post in private because it might become canon on accident. um, and I think touching base sessions are a way that you can bounce off these weird theories you have going on
Hmm.
about like what might be happening. And it might spark something in the GM's head of like, you know what? I do like that idea. I'm going to reference this. And it's being heard also.
Right.
So
It's the
besides, and it's being
collaboration
heard as
to the collaborative storytelling.
exactly. Because I feel like people forget about the collaborative part of storytelling sometimes in this like industry.
Oh no, for
But yeah,
sure.
so that's a lot of the things I use. I use a scheduling bot that switches time frames or time zones based on wherever
Hmm.
your system's set, which also has reminders about sessions. It's also a way to people to say, hey, I'll be able to make this session, or hey, I won't be able to make this session.
Right.
So then the GM knows it's like if they're going to be missing a player, that's an accessibility tool I use. I use two different types of consent sheets over on Internet Game, which is the Monty Cook and then the Gehenna Gaming Consent and Horror. And then I do touching base sessions for people. I use a lot of free resources for my stuff. I use a lot of like Google Doc, Google Forms. Spreadsheets are a mystery to me. They just are. Uh,
It's complicated. I've only seen one person do it very well, and he had to do a lot of Reddit browsing sessions to figure out
yeah.
all the processes and stuff
Uh,
like that. Whew. Made his own
um,
character sheet that way. Ridiculous, but great for him. Good on him.
Unhinged. That is like you have unlocked something in the universe, and you know things where you have broken the matrix. If you are able to do that,
Yeah.
more power to you. I hope you have a wonderful day. But like, you scare me. But
I had a
yeah,
couple
I
questions.
yes, I have
What
answers.
is a multi-splat?
Oh, okay. So I love this question. So our Emerald Sanctums game is World of Darkness, but we play 20th edition World of Darkness because the one that a lot of people know nowadays is like Vampire the Masquerade, Werewolf the Apocalypse, and Hunter the Reckoning are the big
Hmm.
three in World of Darkness, made by I believe Paradox,
Think
and then
so.
distributed by Renegade. I know Renegade
Yes.
distributes
Yes.
them at least.
Hmm.
So those are actually the fifth editions. That's V5 for Vampire, H5 for Hunter, and W5 for Werewolf. All of those books have previous iterations called the 20th edition. Um, and so our multi-splat plays the 20th edition World of Darkness. Each of us play a different book that our character is based off of. Yeah, it's wild. So,
It's
for
all in the same
example,
world, so it's not
yeah,
too crazy. But
exactly.
I don't have enough information on each of like Masquerade, Werewolf, and
Mhm.
all of them to understand the finer points. To be honest, I haven't had the luxury, unfortunately.
So like the simplest rundown I can give
Yes.
is
Yes.
that so basically Ray, who is Mr. Dag Show, he is our storyteller. That's what the game facilitator in World of Darkness is called, is a
Hmm.
storyteller. Um and he runs it so that we don't use the specialized dice for each one. Like if you've ever seen the Vampire the Masquerade Hunter or Werewolf things, they each have their own dice and they each have their own dice pool system. It is a D10 based system,
Hmm.
but they all have different little icons because special click clacks. Who doesn't love
Yeah.
those? Um, but specifically for the way we do the multi-splat is that because we're all playing different playbooks, basically, is kind of what I call them. Um, we all use D10s to where a 10 is a critical success, a 1
Hmm.
is a failure, the 1 removes one of your successes. So if I roll basically anything above usually like a 7 is kind of the success pool that we normally use. If I roll like a 7, an 8, and a 9, and a 10, then I have 4 successes. But if I roll a 1, my 4 successes go down to 3.
Gotcha.
That's how the dice pool works.
All right.
But
All
I
right. All
play
right.
a hunter. I use the ye old Hunter the Reckoning edition, which is not technically, I've been told, 20th edition. I built Bay, my very human hunter, who I say is themed to be basically if Dean Winchester was assigned female at birth and allowed to actually be gay, because Bay is gay with a death wish and allergic to magic in a world
Bay
full of
is
magic.
gay. I
Bay
love that.
is gay. But I came in season 2 with Bay.
Hmm.
I am the basically humanity of the group, quite literally, because I'm human.
Hmm. Yeah.
They're one of my favorite characters to play, and they're such chaos. But then we also have Sphinx Akasha. Sphinx Akasha plays Emrys. Emrys is a mage who uses one of the mage books. I don't remember which mage book Sphinx uses off the top of my head, but he is a hermetic mage, so the Circle of Hermes, I think is what it's
Okay.
called. So and like so his system that he's using is going to be wildly different from Pandora, who was played by Fountain Pen Femme, aka Milagros.
Hmm.
Pandora is a Black Fury werewolf and a lesbian, but
And a
mainly
lesbian
a
to
black
boot.
and a lesbian to boot with the flannel and all. That's how Pandora and Bay legitimately became friends instantly. Is like gay, gay. Uh,
Ah.
ah. But Pandora is run off of the old Werewolf the Apocalypse system in
Mm,
20th edition. So Pandora has to manage basically rage, has to manage being what we call the blender. Pandora canonically has eaten a machine gun
nice.
off of a wall because werewolves are terrifying in World of Darkness. Um, versus Sphinx's character Emrys has to deal with something called, I believe, paradox. Mages are built off of the idea that they are basically bending reality to their will.
Hmm.
It's it's still magic, but it's more reality bending. So you in
Gotcha.
the mage system, you have to find a way to make something happen. The example I was given is like if you want to make a fireball, it's like I don't care how big the room is, I cast fireball. That old
Right,
joke.
right.
In the mage system, you as a player have to think, how am I going to cast this spell? And you have different spheres that you can control.
Okay.
Um, and you pick the sphere that fits what you want to do. You think about where you are in the environment. And the most popular one that people use is like, ah, yes, electrical fire. Something starts shorting out.
Hmm.
And it makes sense that a fire would start because conveniently,
Right.
XYZ.
Just altering
Um,
the state of existence, not like
exactly.
it produces out of nowhere. Okay, I gotcha.
Exactly. Paradox happens if you do something that reality cannot accept. And so that's something that a mage might have to deal with. And then on the flip side, Star Short Stories, who is M, M plays Countess Rosaline, and Rose, as we call her, Rose is a changeling. So Rose is a she fae. So Rose is played off of Changeling the Dreaming. And so changelings in that game, or fae in that game, basically have to deal with something called banes. The world is banal, like tax season in a Walmart, awful for fae. They are just not having a good time. Uh, so like that's something that Rose would have to do, and all of Rose's stats are based off of the things that artistically Rose is good at, because they also have different like subsects. For example, in Hunter, I'm a Martyr Creed Hunter,
Hmm.
and my stats are based off of my pool in basically my virtues. So I am a visionary and a mercy Martyr Creed Hunter is how I built Bay. Each of them has their own thing as well that they touch on. Like for werewolf, it's based off of your tribe, uh, and what your basically what phase of the moon you were born under. And so for the wild, like kind of addition to our cast recently was Selkie Cove. Selkie Cove plays Fia Cremirin, who is a Macaulay, who is a were crocodile that is technically also Werewolf the Apocalypse, just in a different like supplement book that
Flavor.
they put out.
Okay, okay.
And Fia is a were crocodile, but the fun part is that Fia was a crocodile who got turned into a human. So technically a were human. The crocodile part's the normal part, the human part's the part that weird. So
I mean,
that's how a multi-splat works.
ecologically that makes sense as humans ravage, the ecosystem. So like, I'm down with that. I see
Yeah.
that. I see the vision.
Yeah, well, fun part is that in Werewolf, you're literally try well, the new version of Werewolf at least.
Hmm.
I've never played 20th edition Werewolf. I've just witnessed people play it. Uh
Gotcha.
I'm in a Monday campaign right now, the Guardians of Neptune's Cairn, where Star Shard Stories is our storyteller. Um and the point of Werewolf is to you are basically all chosen by Gaia to save the world, to preserve Gaia and save her from the being ravaged by humanity, being ravaged by worm spirits, which are the evil things that come out. There's even like a big organization called Pentex, which is like the big bad of, werewolf society, because werewolves
It's
are,
always back to capitalism,
it's
baby.
always back to capitalism. It
I
is
love
the
it.
BBEG. Brennan Mulligan was right.
It was
Uh,
always, yeah.
so
I was
yeah.
like, yeah, that makes sense. But now that I'm older, yeah, that fucking makes sense, and I fucking hate
Yeah.
it.
So hopefully that answers your multi-splat question in a long,
Yeah.
drawn out way.
Well, I was also interested in the things you said about each of the books. So like I haven't had the opportunity to get into the World of Darkness books and things like that. I had someone tempt me one time saying, "You want to play Vampire Masquerade?" Sure. Like 2 weeks later, nah, I'm not gonna do it. I'm like, or they said that to me, and I'm like, okay, fine. I'll just
Listen, I
pretend.
can fix that. I
I
can
know
fix
you
that.
can. You have the power.
I have the power and I have the friends. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
listen, I will get you your experience for World of Darkness. Believe you me, I am a very determined gemstone.
That, and I'm also wanting to. I mean, you offered like, hey, whatever you want to play. Listen, dinner game. I will find you a spot. You can play Aliens RPG. I'm like, I'm down with that. Let's do it. Let's fucking do it. I still want to get practice in before because it's gonna make me nervous the whole time. Like I'm pretty good. I'm pretty flexible GM, but like
Mm-hmm.
playing a first time RPG. Oh, it's so
Oh,
stressful. It's fun, but it's stressful for
oh.
me.
So fun fact about me, I know how to play now.
Hmm.
It's been a 2-year endeavor out of spite,
Is it
because
Shadowrun?
people kept telling me, um play something other than D&D, play something other than D&D, and I'm like,
Hmm.
fine, cool, I played Pathfinder, like fuck it, we're just going to learn as many systems as possible. So in 2023 I told myself I'm going to learn how to play 23 new systems. I hit 18. I hit 18 by the end of 2023. And so then in 2024, I told myself, I'm going to learn, I'm going to hit the 23 mark, and I'm going to keep going. But my new thing is I'm going to learn how to GM because I've only ever been a player. I'm
Okay.
going to learn how to GM some of the systems that I learned. And so I'm now up to, I know how to play, not including one page TTRPGs, at least 25 systems.
That's a great endeavor. If only
Yeah,
I had the
including,
time.
I do this for basically, I work from home, which is kind of where I'm a little bit privileged with it. My
Yeah, yeah,
schedule
yeah.
is my own making. I work with people who are a little bit more flexible. I also don't sleep. I'm an actual diagnosed insomniac.
Gotcha.
So if people ever see me online and need me to respond to something, I tell them it's like I'm awake at nighttime, Central Standard Time.
I did message you once, and I was just like, too. Was this too early? Like last night, I was like, she's probably asleep. They're doing
No,
something right now, and then I'm just like, I'll save it for the morning. I did. So I'm like, oh, you're
no.
an early riser. No, you never fell asleep.
I literally, well, whenever you messaged me this morning, I was like, oh, hey, I got a message. Cool, I can answer this before I go to bed. Like, I was literally getting ready for bed whenever you messaged me. I'm a night owl. I worked third shift like for so long at a certain point
Okay.
where I'm like just used to it. Um, but yeah, like it's very much one of those things of like I learned 25 systems up
Mhm.
to this point. I can probably run games in three of them. That's a very tentative three of them. I've only ever run a 5e game for two of my friends. Uh, but I also built a whole world based off of just an idea I had years ago. I think a lot of people who end up becoming game facilitators, we all wanted to be writers when we were a kid. And so we built these like worlds to write a book in. And then you never wrote the book because that's a lot of work. And then it turned into, oh wait, TTRPGs, you can homebrew stuff. I can build a world. I have this random notebook from
Mhm.
5th grade. Bet. Uh, and so my world is called Dordan. Um, if anybody follows me on TikTok, I make content based in my world of Dordan, where I basically cosplay a couple of the deities that are in it.
Mm.
But Dordan is a system malleable world where basically the thing I have created it to do is that Dordan has its own home rules. I have table rules
Mhm.
for
All right.
anybody who plays at my table. And I have basically like pillars that people can roll on. It's like the four pillars of storytelling. And based on what you roll in a d4, you might hit a pillar of storytelling. And it's if somebody makes a choice that I feel they made for storytelling and not for a selfish reason.
Mhm.
One of the biggest curses I think in the TTRPG sphere sometimes is oh gosh, what is it called? It's like, but it's what my character would do.
Right.
Because it's one of those ones of I don't think people understand the actual meaning of that phrase. It's what my character would do in accepting it as like a storytelling device and not as a character bleed in, bleed out moment
Right.
of like, I'm going to punch the monk. Why are you punching the monk? Because it's what my character would do. It's like if the monk insulted your entire family's lineage, it might be okay to punch the monk if PvP is enabled in your consent sheets at your table.
Yeah.
But if you want to punch the monk because you guys were playing XYZ video game and they grabbed a loot box you wanted like 2 nights ago, and now that monk player's in this game with you, and you're just like, I'm gonna punch the monk. Like, that's
I
a
get what you're
weird
saying.
choice.
Yeah,
Like,
that's the bleed
in my
in.
opinion. That's the bleed in. For anybody who doesn't know, bleed in and bleed out are two phrases to deal with basically character bleed. Um, it's also very popular in the LARP sphere.
Mm.
Bleeding into your character means that you're bringing things from the real world into your game. Bleeding out means that things from your game are affecting your emotions in the real world. A lot of times, this is just like can be mitigated with check ins and communication. Some people don't realize it's happening
Yeah.
because you
No,
get
for
so
sure.
hooked into it.
Mhm.
Decompression is like a when like cathartic release is a big thing that can help mitigate those in my experience. So I know a lot of tables do like stars and wishes or
Yeah.
like a cooldown. But I also think it's important to have the inverse if you go into a game at the beginning where you basically have the character introductions kind of help with it sometimes. That's what we do under a game where it's like Ray will go around the table and ask us all how we are and say who we're playing. And we can basically talk a little bit about real life and then talk about a little bit about what our character's going through
Hmm.
and then go into it that way. Some I know games facilitators do a recap before session to talk about what happened last time. Some people do it off camera and basically are like, what some things you guys want to do today? What's on your wish list? And then they go into session. It's getting into the headspace and knowing when to press play on that role of yours as a character and then when to press pause or basically end cap it for that moment.
Right.
But the hard stop of it can cause a lot of people to get that bleed out effect where, maybe you were having conflict with your best friend's character in the game, but that's your best friend in real life. That's your ride or die. But,
Hmm.
because your characters are at odds, like you start becoming more like upset at them for something that isn't a big deal. It's like maybe you guys were going to go to the gas station together and they always get one flavor of a soda and you always get the other one and you guys always share like powdered donuts together. But this time you got your sodas and you went to go get the powdered donuts and they said, "Oh, can we get the ones with sprinkles instead?" And you just like get so mad about why would they choose sprinkles, and it's realizing you might have bleed out affecting you in your
Right.
real life relationships with these players, and it's being able to recognize that and then have a conversation about why that might have happened. So yeah.
Would you consider that be the decompression, the having that conversation about that moment?
Yes, I do think that it's important to have table conversations as a decompression tool. I know a lot of people in this space have either like I know people who have rejection sensitivity, RSD, where
Yeah. Hmm.
having someone give you criticism can be very like awful feeling, and if you're not in a place where you can accept it, but like stars and wishes as a decompression tool, like basically I want to give a star to like you for having this interview and doing so good. My wish is that I hope you get to play World of Darkness. Like that's a stars and wishes system.
Gotcha.
That's something super simple that like you can talk about what happened in the game that was a good moment and then a wish of what you have to see next time. And that could be like, oh, my wish has been spoken. Like, I hope that I get this. And you can then bounce off of other people who maybe someone noticed something you did and you got a compliment for it and know that you feel appreciated, because I do feel like the appreciation and the criticism go hand in hand, because even
Right.
with criticism it can just be communication, it can be check-ins. Criticism doesn't have to be, ah, I really hate that you decided to wear like this instead of this today. It's like that's not going to help anybody.
Right.
Or if someone's like, "Hey, you said that there was construction going on outside of your house. I really wish you would have muted your mic during the times when you weren't in a scene because we now have like a bunch of noise in the background." It's like it's something like that. That's like a suggestion. It's constructive criticism to help like basically enable it. Or if someone has auditory issues,
Hmm.
it's basically saying it's like, hey, is there a way that on your like your settings you can boost your volume, like your mic's volume internally, or is there a way we can do it on this because I feel like so and so is really soft and I can't
Right.
hear them. It's because like really it's depending on what you're using for that stuff. It's like the only one I know that can do that is Discord, is you can do it
Right. Yeah.
manually on one end, but on the other end it's got to be the master volume of whoever the host is. So
Hmm.
it's stuff like that is also important to have at the end of sessions, because then because then if one person who has been soft for 3 sessions uh and is possibly getting talked over because they no one can hear them talk,
Hmm.
like then that can be fixed and that person no longer gets talked over. Or if like you feel like, oh, I really wish that we would have done like followed the story thread, I'm really sad we didn't. because it could be the ice cream truck scenario. It's like, yeah, you're saving the world, but like this person's got to go find that ice cream truck. And if everyone's constantly not letting them do the ice cream truck thing, it's kind of is on the game facilitator to be like, you're gonna have an ice cream truck side quest because like you get listen, I'll give you 15 minutes where it's just you and this ice cream truck.
Right.
Like, have a ball. Here's $20. But like it could just be moments like that. Those decompression moments, like I believe, mitigate so many future problems. And the positive and the negative do have to go hand in hand, in my opinion. It's just part of life. I know a lot of people use these games as escapism or
Yeah.
to like just exist somewhere besides the real
The
world,
world.
but there are other people playing with you who are playing for different reasons. It's
Yeah.
kind of that important question is like, are you somebody who likes role play or are you somebody who just wants a meat grinder?
Yeah.
Like, so, but yeah.
I want to ask you about I mean, you're a sex worker, you have a Fansly. Guys, go check it out. You cowards. That's what it says on your bio.
It literally does. It literally says "Sim for me on Fansly, you cowards" at the end of my bio on Discord. if if anybody has me on Discord and you click on my username and you never realize this, it does in fact say that. And yeah, it was just a random thing I put in there, and it actually does get me questions of like, you have a Fansly? I'm like, I do. Do you want it? Like,
Yeah, how does it work? How does putting that out there into the
mhm.
world? How's it kind of other? How does other interactions with other TTRPG players kind of have they reacted? Is it mostly been positive? Have you, I mean, been able to surround yourself with positive people? Mixed bag.
So it is in fact a mixed bag. Uh, but so I have been an online public sex worker since quarantine. I, like a lot of people, was unable to return to a capitalism hellscape workplace
Hmm.
because of the quarantine restrictions. Uh, and I'm also disabled. I am agoraphobic slightly. I'm recovering from agoraphobia because of quarantine. And sex work is my job. It is one of the jobs I have. And I started doing it full time in 2020 when a lot of people made the jump of like, well, I have a platform. I have people simping for me in my comments. Let's see what happens.
Hmm.
I then made an OnlyFans. I then swapped from OnlyFans to Fansly because I prefer the interface that Fansly has. I also prefer just Fansly as a company.
Hmm.
Um, but so I've been doing this publicly online for 4 years. And my content has gone from me doing like, yes, here's Velma,
Yeah.
maybe once in a while, and here's like me in XYZ outfit
Right.
or Sans XYZ outfit. It's into I basically create like customized content for my subscribers. Um, I take requests for it. Like I've had people basically say, I really want you to do this cosplay. And then I've built the cosplay if it was something I was interested in, or they've basically just bought it for me.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my experience with sex work, but there is a lot of discrimination in that because like because I'm so public online with it, even though I do have an online persona, even though I do have an online space that is tailored towards what I do, it did get backlash because you get those moments where it's people I went to high school with are now
Hmm.
messaging me inappropriate things, like my exes are probably messaging me inappropriate things, or it ends up on the wrong side of the For You page or the wrong side of the algorithm on another like platform, and I'm getting people in my comments saying heinous things to me, like
And this
the
is just like
message request
videos,
section.
just anywhere.
And it's just because it's like it used to be different on TikTok back in like 2020. It's like you could mention that kind of stuff and you would get traction every now and again, but then they started censoring.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest things with online sex workers, or sex workers who are online, is we get deplatformed constantly. I had a account in up until 2022, I want to say. It was 2021 or 2022, where my account was at 30K. I had
Hmm.
30,000 people who used to maybe see my content, and I had really great engagement. A lot of those people would come follow me on my other pages or across social media. Like, I had a big boost in like engagement, and that affected my income. I was able to commit more money into it. But then I lost that account and got banned. And I immediately saw the financial toil it took on me, because it's also like disheartening. I spent years on that account
Hmm.
cultivating that audience and cultivating that community that I had. And then I lost it all at once. It was literally, I was out at my partner's concert because he's a musician. Um, and I got a message from a mutual of mine. It's like, hey, where's your TikTok? And I went and checked and I got logged in, and it says it's like your account has been banned. So I had to go in and make a whole new one. And what I told myself with this new one, because I was getting into the TTRPG sphere, is I'm going to make TTRPG content. And at the forefront of this, I'm going to talk about the fact that I'm a sex worker. I want to. It's the two facets of who I am. I'm a cosplayer, I'm a writer. I'm going to talk about all this because this is who I am.
Right.
You can't have like the sex worker side of Diamond without having the TTRPG side of Diamond. You can't have either of those without the cosplayer. You can't have any of those three without like the person who like used to read fan fiction on LiveJournal. Like
Yeah.
it's that's all facets of myself, which is also where I get my name Diamond, is because diamonds are multifaceted. But lore. But
Lore.
basically, when I made that switch to publicly like brand myself as someone who is in the TTRPG sphere, who is a sex worker, it got mixed reviews. I felt
The
I
reviews were
would
in. Here's the
the
reviews.
the reviews were in, and I don't know what my Rotten Tomatoes score would be, but it's gonna be teetering sometimes. I like to call myself, I'm a cult classic. I'm a movie that like aged fairly well, is still aging fairly well. Thank you, genetics. Um, but like it's not for everybody. It's a very niche thing. I'm very camp. I That's just kind of what it is. But like whenever I made that step into that space in that capacity as a sex worker,
Hmm.
because I was like, I'm gonna start talking about this more. I have to. If I don't, no one's gonna know. Like I have to advertise myself. I am the product that I'm selling. Like
Hmm.
my content is the product I'm selling. If they don't see me, they're not going to know I exist. And so I remember the first time that I joined a Discord server specifically made for like a TTRPG community. And lo and behold, they have a not safe for work channel. And I know the person running the server, and I shoot them a message and I say, "Hey, I have a OnlyFans, as you know." And this person was a friend of mine who like had supported me on that.
Right.
And I said, it's like, would it be okay if I post teasers for my content in your not safe for work? I'll spoil them. If you're not okay with it, that's fine. There's not going to be anything that I wouldn't put on like Instagram, or I wouldn't put on like Twitter. Twitter is a different beast now
Oof.
because Tumblr doesn't have porn. But um, that's what caused it. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so like, and that old friend told me, it's like, oh yeah, as long as you hit a spoiler on it and tell people, like, totally, do you want to post a link to your thing in my server for like promos? And I'm just like, is that allowed? And they're like, bet. And so I did it. And so I had a lot of randos in that server that was a friend of mine's server, um that then saw my content in the spicy chat, and they're just like, subscribe.
Hmm.
And it helped. It helped greatly. It was a moment of acceptance. But then on the flip side, like I have joined other servers where somebody will say something out of pocket. Uh, and like the worst thing that some people have ever said, it's like, oh, I'm gonna just quit my job and start an OnlyFans. It's easy money.
Hmm.
I need you to know I work 80 hours a week. When I was just doing like sex work content online, I used to work 60. It is not an easy job. And so I literally told this person, I replied to them directly. I'm like, hey, as a sex worker who's been doing this for XYZ amount of time, this is the amount of work that I put into one set I do, that I price at this price point, and my subscriber like price is this. I'm not even getting paid minimum wage most times because I still need to make it affordable, but I also need to make sure that my bills get paid. And so it's like, this is not me supplementing my income. This is my income. And I got a message from somebody in the server because I have my permission set to where if we're in a server together, you can talk to me.
Hmm.
Easiest way to make friends. Um, they basically told me that I was in the wrong because it was just a joke. It's like, it's not just a joke, it's hurtful. And that was somebody in the TTRPG community.
Right.
And it's like, that's not fair. And so, like, on my consent sheets, if anyone ever plays a table with me, I do have real world whorephobia, or like the discrimination or disenfranchisement of sex workers. Because I work with Decrim 305, which is a nonprofit made, created by, and founded and run by sex workers. I'm their administrative assistant. I do a lot of their long distance planning and work for them.
Hmm.
They also have a mutual aid project where they like to be able to financially support. Uh, the big crossover I'm working with on that is I'm trying to find more sex workers in the TTRPG community to work with me.
Hmm.
There's a couple really good ones. For example, I did a guest spot on Roll for Seduction, which Ailey Cat is I believe, the DM for that one, and they had me on as a guest NPC that was auto generated, and we played through a level of Dungeon of the Mad Mage, and it was just a bunch of sex workers recording and playing a game together. There was no like overly spicy content being made, but on the flip side, they do that kind of stuff as well in the
Right.
TTRPG sphere.
Like
So
it's
like
not
there is a
just that
job.
as your personality. Like that's just
Yeah.
you are multifaceted. You can be tamed. You can not be tamed. It's up. It's just up to the person.
Yeah. And it's like there was a big controversy like a couple of years ago where somebody basically said that sex workers aren't safe to have at your table because we can't separate our job from the games we play. And it's a consent issue. No one knows more about consent, in my opinion, than a sex worker. We have the clearest lines and veils for our job. We have the clearest boundaries because we have to for our job.
Hmm.
But we also are people. We have lives, we have hobbies. A lot of sex workers I know are not only into TTRPGs, they're also huge into Magic the Gathering. So many of these like wonderful people try to convert me into the cardboard land.
Oh
I'm bad at
gosh.
math, so I say no. But hey, Vraska, if you free on Thursdays, call me. But like beyond that, like
Hmm.
it's one of those things too where I there is a giant overlap. The discrimination is still there. There are still people who think that, you know, OnlyFans girls is the best way to insult somebody. Even in the TTRPG sphere, I weed those people out so quickly. I have a saying. It's like I am a creature fueled by spite. I will in fact like revoke your spine privileges, especially if you're going after sex workers.
Yeah.
I am very clear in like when people on April Fool's Day, like in people who were even mutuals of mine, were posting, it's like, April Fools, you thought I made an OnlyFans. I'm like, hey, this is really insensitive to people who actually do this as a job. You are
Hmm.
making a mockery of how a lot of people make their money. It's like, it's fine to say, it's like, hey, that's not for you. It's not something you're doing, but it is something somebody else's. and to
Right.
be respectful of their job. It's like making fun of a trash man. Like they
Like,
are essential to society.
mhm.
Um, the other part of it too is with everything going on in the world. One thing a lot of people don't know is that most sex workers are also activists. A lot of us are involved in the decriminalization because what we want as sex workers in the United States, we don't want legalization. We want decrim. We want to decriminalize sex work because you can't, if we have it legal, the government is still in our pockets, but also that disenfranchises sex workers who maybe can't do it the legal way because they're doing it
Mhm.
for survival.
Yeah.
So, and like I said, with being a producer, you have to look at the people who are the most disenfranchised and need accessibility, and you have to work from their level. And a lot of me being a sex worker comes into the way that I run and produce things. It's being respectful of people's time. It's knowing clear consent and lines and veils. It's being very concise and clear about what the objective is. And it's also like investment. Investing money is good, but like investing your time and commitment and energy is better. But then it's also respecting people's time. So it's the whole thing of like, don't slide into somebody's DMs being like, oh, can I get a free sample? Like, no, my content that I put out is the free sample, it is the preview. You are
Yeah.
looking at the menu before you order your burger. You don't get to taste the burger beforehand and take a bite out of it and then buy it. Like,
Right.
um, so it's engaging respectfully is one
Mhm.
of the big things that sex workers will say. Engaging respectfully is one of the big things I will say as a producer. And I've met some wonderful people in the space who love hearing about my escapades as a nonprofit working sex worker, who just have questions. I'm very much about harm reduction when it comes to sexual wellness. If there's any kind of illicit substances involved, finding resources for people who might need them. Uh, Decrem also works with the unhoused community in Miami as well. And it's informing people that, like, calling someone houseless is one thing, but calling them unhoused is another because it's not their fault they don't have a home, but the
Mhm.
area that they set up and provide protection for themselves and their community is their home. It's the change in language as well. Instead of using the word prostitute, using the word sex worker
Mhm.
is the like PC way of doing it, but it is correct. And it's also the there's something called a swerf. A swerf is a sex work exclusionary radical feminist.
Oh,
There is
no.
a they are the evil cousins or the equally evil cousins of a turf, trans
Right.
exclusionary radical feminist.
Right, right, right,
Um,
right.
in the TTRPG community, I see a lot of people who are saying things that align with swerf thinking.
Mhm.
And I have to be very careful because I am someone who works in this space now, who
Right.
is a person, I guess, in this space. Weirdly, I just was playing pretend and I ended up here somehow. Uh, and
I don't
like,
even know where it was before this.
I was just at a birthday party, rolled a natural 20 to steal a necklace, and now I'm here on a podcast. But life is weird sometimes. Uh, and like, but it's one of those things where I will see people spewing these ideas and they think that they're coming from a wholesome place, or they think
Mhm.
that they're coming from like a correct place because it is quote unquote feminism, but it's not. Saying things like sex workers sell consent, sex work, you can't consent if you're a prostitute because they're paying you. That's not right. If you say things like, oh, I want to rescue you because they want the pretty woman vibe.
Yeah.
I don't need to be rescued. You can buy me lunch, but like I don't need to be rescued. I'm fine. I need to stop being deplatformed and disenfranchised. Do you want to donate money to a mutual aid fund to help a queer sex worker be housed or to pay a medical bill? Like, that'd be great. Do you want to
Mhm.
help a nonprofit be able to provide resources to some place? Would you like to volunteer your time? It's simple stuff like that. It's like, you don't have to rescue me. I need you to elevate my voice and voices like mine in this space, which is why whenever like people were saying it's like, oh, sex workers don't belong in TTRPG, all I wanted to see is everyone who was posting sex work as real work to keep that energy.
Right.
And a lot of them didn't because they saw it was happening and thought they wanted to jump onto a trend. It's like,
Uh,
my job is not a trend. So, but yeah, that's kind of how that is. But there's a lot of lovely sex workers in the TTRPG community.
mm-hmm.
I'm hopefully working with some of them next year. I would love to do a all sex workers charity game. That is
Hell
my
yeah.
dream. That is my goal. That's why I work so much right now, is to learn how to possibly run that. Uh, and the premise is that all the players will be sex workers, but the game facilitators, it will vary based on interest and
Right.
based on schedules. But any system, clear lines and veils. If they want to make a character who's a sex worker, cool. Tell your own story, have some fun. But I want every player to basically tell me, it's like, I'm raising money for XYZ Foundation,
Mm-hmm.
for my local sex worker effort. Because Decrim 305 is based in Miami, Florida.
Miami.
That's who I work with. That's who I would want to support. But for example, I live in St. Louis, but next to me is Chicago, and
Mm-hmm.
there is a Chicago sex worker nonprofit that also somebody might want to support. There's one everywhere, basically. We're everywhere, literally. Um, and so getting funds to those grassroots foundations is really important to me, especially because it's the same vein in TTRPGs. How, instead of buying from these big companies, why don't you buy from an indie company? It's like, you
Right.
probably know a friend who is a game designer, probably has a game somewhere on one of those little sites. Throw them $10, buy their game, play it, share it with your friends. Tell your friends to go buy their game so they can play it and share with their friends, because it's then going into your friend's pocket.
Right.
Grassroots action, same philosophy. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Where can they find you?
Hiya. My name is MaddnessDiamond, but since we're friends now and you tuned in to Dungeons and Degrees, you can call me Diamond. I am a TTRPG actual play performer. I'm a writer. I'm an author, and I work with a nonprofit called the Crim 305, made by sex workers, founded by sex workers for sex workers in the Miami-Dade County area. Uh, my actual play schedule is in my Beacons link. It is beacons.ai/MaddnessDiamond. I try to keep that updated with everywhere you can find me. As I've mentioned, I'm in a couple different shows. You can find me on the Starfield on Mondays, usually, playing Guardians of Neptune's Cairn, which is a W5 Werewolf the Apocalypse Chronicle. We're about to wrap up to, like, in sometime soon in 2024, our season one. And then where I play Soiree, the Ragabash Silverfang. Uh, she's lovely. But her concept I use is heavy as the crown for her character, because I use concepts for my characters. On Tuesdays, you can find me over on Dinner and a Game on their Twitch channel, where I play Bay, the very human hunter, who is just gay with a death wish. Bay uses the Hunter the Reckoning Old School Edition from World of Darkness for our multi splat, and Bay is a Martyr Creed hunter, hence the gay with the death wish. Think AFAB Dean Winchester, if allowed to be gay. And then on Thursdays, you can find me over on Moultrie Quests, where we play Fathoms Below, our completely underwater homebrewed 5e campaign run by Son of Asgard, aka Bran, our DM of Doom, who homebrewed this entire world, where I play Melusine Luce Vestra, aka Orc Glimmertide, now that she knows her last name, a Battlemaster fighter, barbarian multi-class, where my barbarian path is Path of the Ancestral Guardian. So, but yeah, and Luce is magically stupid, but half proud about it. Luce is an only melee. I didn't want to do a spellcaster, so
Too many
um,
choices.
it's too many choices. I can smack, I can bonus action, smack again. Like, it's great. I can rage. A funny thing happens when I rage. But like, my grandpa pops up behind me as a spirit. But like, it's a whole thing. But yeah, that's where you can find my actual play schedule. It's in my Beacons link, like I said, beacons.ai/MaddnessDiamond. If you want to find out more about what I do as a sex worker, that link is also in there.
Mhm, mhm.
But like I said before, if you have a project that needs a little bit of sparkle and shine to it, or you're somebody who's looking for an opportunity to maybe get into the streaming space in the TTRPG community, or maybe you're someone who wants to just play at a table or GM a table, let me know. Hop in my DMs respectfully, and you know, maybe download some more of the Dungeons and Degrees episodes if you liked mine.
Yeah, there's Ren, there's Ray,
Mhm.
and probably more casts to come.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
All right, I'm gonna try to do my best impression of how to do the wrap up with Alex, because Alex usually does the wrap up. Thank you for listening. You can find us on all social medias on Dungeon in Degrees. That's one single dungeon, the letter N, and multiple degrees. Um, dude, finding a correct name that spaces well is so hard across social media.
I
You can
feel that
also
in my
follow us.
soul.
You can follow us on our Patreon, where we have um, early access to episodes. As long as Adrian is able to properly do that in a timely manner, he's got so much on his plate. That's what he does. And you can also find what's it called us in our little Discord community, just chilling out. I'm trying to find a way to collapse 2 to 3 servers that I have spread out and to combine it into one, so I'm more present in the Discord server, so y'all can see my beautiful face and my beautiful work there more prominently. If you can email us if you want to join or talk to us. It's in the doobly doo. It's dndegreespod@gmail.com. And then rate us 5 stars. If you rate us any less, your product's not going to have that sparkle. Yeah. Oh, how do I do this? That's the end of that. Okay. I did okay, I think.
You did wonderful.
Thank you. Alex, yell at me in the comments later because we need that engagement anyways. Um, Thank you so much for listening. My name's Adrian. Oh, I forgot to tell you. You should say your name at the end too. Oh, I fucked it up already. Anyways,
Oh no, you're
yeah.
fine.
Okay, my name's Adrian.
And my name's Diamond.
Go have some fun.